this computer. Hi guys, I am conducting a series of interviews with fitness and nutrition-minded 50 plus folks who have had various experiences and have various backgrounds. But my main objective here is to learn from the group of people who I serve currently and who I hope to serve beyond this, so that I have a better insight on your experience and what you're looking for in terms of a healthier, more vibrant and vital experience. And so Steve has agreed to join me today and share some of his thoughts and insights. So Steve, we had a very brief exchange about some of your experiences and what led you to a fitness lifestyle, or at least made you more committed to that lifestyle. And I don't really want to lead too much with that because I think you're the best one to tell your story. So if you just tell us how you got into this lifestyle and what brought you to where you are today.
Okay, so most of my life was very physically active. Raced motorcycles on and off my entire adult life. Mostly on, off when I was injured. Sometimes major. Broke my back in 3 places. Had a neck fusion, 3 shoulder surgeries. It's typical motorcycle racing life. And so I was pretty physically active. I was actually actively racing enduros, which is like 5 to 7 hours straight going through swamps and stuff, in my 40s. So I was 43 at the time. It was October that year, and winter came, started hurting, which is typical. Weather change, things start to ache at that age after all those injuries. And I wrote it off to that. By December, I actually was having trouble standing. Went into the hospital. By the end of that day, I couldn't walk. Couldn't stand, couldn't walk, and had a autoimmune disorder called polymyositis. Took a month to diagnose. This was a long journey. Multi-year journey. 6 months in a wheelchair, on crazy high doses of prednisone, like 80 milligrams a day for a year. Gained a ton of weight.
Wow. Yeah.
Lost all my muscle. The autoimmune attacked my muscles, primarily large muscles, my quads, my legs, and my back.
Now, the autoimmune had no connection to any of the injuries or any of the meds that you?
No idea. I have no idea. So they had that, but with that, they have to basically I'm immunosuppressed through prednisone and 2 different forms of chemo. Still am 11 years later. Still I'm on low doses of prednisone, and I manage the disease with that autoimmune. But I ballooned up to 300 pounds. I lost like 10 inches around my thighs, muscle mass. Went from actively racing to 2 months later in a wheelchair. And it's shocking how fast you lose muscle when you're inactive. And I was sleeping sometimes 24 hours a day. I had to work. I worked full time through it, actually. Somehow managed it, but I would just sleep all weekend. I basically worked and slept, and took many years. Started getting it under control. It's a thing where if you do too much, it flares, and then you're out for weeks. So many years. We're talking 5 years, in and out of the hospital.
Stops and starts, or fine tuning once you kind of had a basic range of activity.
Well, it's fine. The problem is so the whole time they're trying to get you on drugs and get the drugs balanced as well. So they're pulling down on prednisone, and the prednisone, as you're coming down, causes flares, and getting sick causes flares, and doing too much causes flares. And at one time, Too much was as much as, instead of taking the electric wheeled cart at the grocery store, I walked to where the milk was and back, and that set me back for a month.
Okay.
Um, so it was that kind of stuff. Weight ballooned up to 300 pounds. Sleeping all the time, very little activity. That was about 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years. Um, it actually was around 280. When I hit 300 pounds, I stepped on the scale. Scared the hell out of me.
That's all I.
Terrified, terrified me. And I just decided I was going to starve myself.
Okay.
And I had been trying to control my diet, working with my doctor and stuff. I had a handful of pills I was taking, but I was trying to control my diet, basically by restricting calories. And if I ate anything more than about 1,400 calories, I'd gain weight.
No, boy.
And for a 300-pound guy, that's not much. you know. And but when I hit 300 pounds, I just decided I just can't do this anymore. I have to lose the weight, because if I got to 300, what was going to stop me from getting to 600?
Right.
And
Now, did you feel like it was harder to eat based on, capacity? When you're eating cleaner, generally speaking, of course, I can't put myself in the position you're in, but generally speaking, when you're eating cleaner and you're training regularly, you kind of have a sense of your blood sugar being more stable throughout the day, and when your body is more likely to crave a pretty even distribution of protein across the course of the day. Did you feel like your appetites were kind of out of whack, or what was the?
no, everything was crazy at this point. I mean, I had no touch no touch with anything that was going on with me. I was trying to survive, really. But I got down to 1,200 calories a day, and I was not paying attention to quality at all,
Okay. So
pure
not
calories.
counting your protein grams at all.
Nope, not at all at the time. Just purely calories. That's all I went by. It was just calories. I didn't have any more. Honestly, there wasn't much more energy for much more than that. And what I did was I got myself down to where I had a couple of bars that I would eat. They were about 140 calories. I'd have one for breakfast. I'd have one for lunch, and then I'd have a small dinner. And
So
I was
you're
just hungry
probably
all
getting at
the time.
least 60 grams of protein. And even if you weren't trying to, if those were protein bars, it's likely you were getting 60 plus, including the protein that you would find in grains and vegetables.
Prob- Probably at the time.
It's
Yep.
not dramatically lower than what your
So
requirements were.
So eventually through that, I got down to about 250 pounds. So I lost about 50 pounds purely on calorie restriction, nothing but that.
Okay.
And then I started working out with Peloton, with through their app, but with a power meter, and I just did the same class every single day, because I could increase my activity by just that little tiny bit, you
Right,
know.
right. So that
Um,
predictable incremental improvement allowed you to avoid kind of going off the rails and setting yourself back.
exactly. Yep. Yeah, yeah. The tiny incremental improvement it enabled me to start building my capacity.
Sure.
You know, and then I was able to start walking a little bit further at work and things like that. Eventually, I started working out with weights, but just dumbbells. Got an adjustable bench, dumbbells. Started working out with those, and a solo flex that I had here from before. Started working out with that. Eventually got to where the weight working out started to be more and more and more. Last 3 years has been pretty heavy. Last 2 years has been very heavy. I work out. Most of my workouts are about 3.5 hours long. And I work out with weights four out of 6 days. I split them up, and at this point, I had no idea if I was going to be able to build muscle, because the disease I've got attacks my muscles. But I found I was able to,
Well, that's
and
great.
I'm 54. I was working out with weights, not paying too much attention to my diet other than pure calories.
Yeah.
Um, Diet, I started working out with, I started using Chronometer, the app. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
No, no.
It's a Chronometer. I think there's a free version and there's a paid version. But it's a tracking app.
Yeah.
I actually have a sister-in-law that's got a PhD in nutrition. And what I noticed was I was purely tracking calories. I wasn't paying attention to what I was eating, and I had no idea. I hadn't paid attention to nutrition since the pyramid, food
Yeah.
pyramid, and that stuff.
I thought you meant the original pyramids in Egypt, but more
No,
recently.
no, yeah, the ones we grew up with.
Sure, yeah.
And what I noticed was in my working out got to a point where I could tell that my body was craving.
Oh, that's great. So great to hear.
I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what was going on, but I could tell that I was no longer giving it the adequate fuel. And I think part of it was my fat stores, my fat stores at this point. So timing wise, if I go back, so 2 years actually, almost exactly 2 years, I had gotten down to 200 pounds from three
Wow.
from
And
300.
I'm sorry, Steve, what's your height, if you don't mind my asking?
6 foot. Well, I was 6'1". I'm now 5'11". I
I'm right
lost.
there with you, buddy.
I lost an inch when I was 18 when I broke my back. I lost
Oh
an inch
boy.
there,
Yeah.
and then I've
And we
lost
had
another inch.
some discs
Yeah,
that
yeah. So then I've lost an inch since then. So 5'11" now.
yeah.
So I'd gone from 300 down to 200, but I had no muscle still. At that
Yeah.
point, really, that was pretty much diet restriction for the most part.
Right.
And my fat was still up at like 24%, 24, 25% fat, according to a impedance scale.
Okay.
And so at that point was when I started working out, and then the fat started getting down. And I noticed when I started getting down around 18% or so, that I think what it was is I had enough things stored in my fat, and my body had gotten really good at using that fat because
Right.
I burning it, because I had gone from such a high.
Right.
And honestly, I think because I lost so much weight, it was easier.
Right. Right. So
I had
everything's
quick
contextual,
results.
right?
You
Everything's contextual. As you lost more body fat, that became less of an abundant source of stored energy for you. So your body really had to kind of adjust back to what and a very healthy body composition physiology would need in terms of mix of nutrients and energy sources. Yeah, that's great.
Right. So at that point, I noticed these cravings, and well, I've got a PhD in the family that's in nutrition. I said, "Hey, Vicky, what do I do?"
Yeah, of
She said, "Well, I want you to track your food for the next 2 weeks." And I'm like,
course you did.
"Oh my god," because
Yeah,
I tried tracking food before, and
yeah.
it's it was a
Yeah.
pain,
It's a
and I'm
revealing story. It's a revealing story that a lot of people don't really want to know the answer to.
right. And well, it's just a pain. It's difficult to
Sure.
do. I tried it before. It's difficult to do. So I'm an IT guy, and I went, "Hey, there's got to be an app for this." So I went out there and I searched, and I came across this Chronometer.
Okay.
I
So
tracked
similar
it.
to MyFitnessPal, then probably.
Similar. I think it's got a lot more of the macronutrients. I mean, it goes
Okay.
into every single one of the vitamin K's, all of the different kinds of proteins, leucine. I mean, it's got
Oh,
like all the different
oh,
kinds of
that's
proteins
great.
listed in there. So it goes into very, very detailed of all the different things. And then what I was really able to use that app for, and I'm not familiar with MyFitnessPal, but with that app, what I was really able to do with that was you were able to go and sit and say, it could show you like, okay, here's what you got today. And I could look at leucine, for example. I could click on leucine and it would tell you, this is your primary sources. So these are the things that you eat that give you leucine. And then these are the things that are good for that.
Right. And just for our audience, Leucine is one of the branched chain amino acids, essential amino acids that we need to get from outside sources. And it's also in the most relevant research, I don't want to say the sole driver, but among the essential amino acids, the one that most closely correlates with protein synthesis. So that's why leucine is a really important element in your protein quality.
And that's just one of them. So and that was just an example I was giving. But what I did was, through that, I tuned my diet. And I would copy a day, and I'd copy to another day, and I'd play with it.
Right. That's great. That's so.
And I got to where everything was in the green. Where I'm getting adequate nutrients across the board, top to bottom.
And now you could feel the difference probably in time, if not immediately, once you got that all lined up, I would guess, yeah?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I mean, and it lined up, and everything's just been a snowball. I mean, one thing leads to another, and it's just additive and adding on a little bit more and a little bit more each day.
So that's great. It's so helpful to know the kind of process that hopefully most of us won't have to struggle with. The way you approached it was a very pragmatic, open-eyed, receptive way, but also, having an appreciation for data points and, measurable, controllable increases in cultivating a more varied and nutrient-rich diet, and really getting a sense of how that feels as you make those incremental changes. It's so nice to hear that from really a crisis point that most of us hopefully will not have to deal with, to obviously you look and seem very healthy today. Why don't you tell us kind of where you feel like you're at right now in your journey? And are you at maintenance mode? Are you still kind of fine tuning? Are there other things that you want to accomplish with your lifestyle?
Yeah, and I think I've got a window. I've got a window of opportunity. I'm 54.
Yeah.
And right now I'm still building muscle, pretty significantly. In the last year I put on 40 pounds of muscle on my frame.
No, that's great.
And I lost a bunch there, and so I'm trying to do some makeup.
Right.
And I've looked at the cliff of muscle loss that's 15 years or so out. It looks like at 70 you really fall off a cliff.
Right.
So I figure I've got about a 10-year window here where I can still probably put on some decent muscle mass. And as long as it's working, I want to continue on. So to give you an idea, just the things that have gotten better. So right now I'm at 210, at 210 pounds and about 14% body fat, according to an impedance scale. My goal for this year was to be able to squat and deadlift my body weight, and hopefully bench my body weight, which wasn't too realistic. Although my 1 rep max is at my body weight now, this year. So my bench is, I bench 180 for 5 reps, 3 sets. I'm squatting 245 for 5 reps, 3 sets, and I'm deadlifting 285.
Well, just so you know, Steve, I'm sure you've done your own research into this, but those goal points are not really that far off from NCAA Division I athletes. And for us to be able to talk about that at the half-century mark and beyond, this is the body our dads didn't know, right?
That's for sure.
And that has everything to do with the level of priority that you put it at, and consistency. And you're obviously a great example of both of those.
And I'm living pain free today.
That's beautiful.
Which is incredible. you know, I've had pain since I was 18. You know, I mean, I broke my back in three
Yeah,
places, so I've had pain my entire life. And from my autoimmune disorder, I had severe pain, such that I was on Percocet for 7 years.
boy,
Um, so you know, with upper back pain,
right.
because it was attacking my upper muscles
Yeah.
was what the disease attacked, and it hurt. My upper back hurt
Yeah,
all the
sure.
time. So I was on Percocet for 7 years.
Oh, boy.
That's all gone. I'm off of all pain meds.
That's so
I'm
great.
literally pain free 99% of the time. And I never thought that could be possible.
Well, that's
That
wonderful.
that strength training
Right,
got rid of, and that was, that was skeletal pain,
right,
musculoskeletal pain.
right.
I've got osteoarthritis all over. It's the first thing they say when they take an X-ray of me is they say you've got a lot of arthritis,
Yeah.
but I don't have pain from it
Right, because your
currently.
muscles support the joints in a way that most people who have age-related osteoarthritis suffer because the muscles don't support the natural, well, the optimal separation and alignment of the joints, but you do have that, which is great. So any words of advice? I mean, a very inspiring story. I appreciate you being so candid and revelatory with us. And I think a lot of people are going to be inspired and also appreciate um, your very straightforward, practical, unsentimental yet optimistic attitude going into taking control of the elements in the equation that you could. And obviously, you know, your success story. Is there anything as we close that you'd like to um, um, impart to any people who might be dealing with some sort of condition or injury or both and feel like maybe their commitment to a healthy lifestyle, eating nutrient dense diet, that maybe that's just a little too much, or they just don't feel like they've got the you know the motivation or the strength, the inner strength to do that. And anything you can say to those folks?
Go slow and be consistent.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
No,
Steve.
no big changes. Don't, not huge changes all at once. It's, it was a lot of small changes over time. And by far, consistency was the biggest thing, because I could find that um, I could ruin 2 months worth of work in a weekend.
Wow.
Easy.
Yeah, you're right. Consistency really is key, and I appreciate that you're a living example of that, and that you agreed to share your story with the folks that will see this video. So thank you again for agreeing to take part, and hopefully we'll talk again. And
Sounds good.
right. Bye bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.